So the media is going through this, and suddenly this case leaps out at everyone, and they go, what? This is in the material that the Ministry of Defense is releasing? And on that note, because there's no point my telling someone else's story when you people have a fantastic opportunity in one of these rare events in this subject to hear about one of the world's most sensational and interesting UFO cases, not, and no disrespect to the researchers and the ufologists and the journalists, but not from somebody else writing up somebody else's story, but from the man himself. My co-speaker today, Dr. Milton Torres, a retired USAF major, 20 years service for his country, doctorate in mechanical engineering, taught at Florida International University, a man who has served his country with distinction and honor, who has not particularly wanted, because he was asked not to talk about this, and it was only when the Ministry of Defense effectively outed him and put his name into the public domain that you know, we're in a situation where, okay, if the government is now releasing this and it's in the file, I guess I can talk about this. So without any further ado from myself, I would like now to hand over to Major Milton Torres.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. This man just saved my life. The MOD released the story that I've kept since 1957. What a relief. I can talk about it. I'll give you a background about where I came from and how I started. I joined the Air Force because the Korean War was on and my number was getting close. And I certainly didn't want to go to the Army, and I don't like mud. And I just sure as hell wanted to be a fighter pilot, and I knew I wasn't going to be one because I didn't have any education at that time. But anyway, I joined the Air Force, and lo and behold, they come down and say, we offer to the enlisted personnel a chance to fly. Wow. I succeeded. I was well up in the top of the class. I wasn't the top, but I was close. And they offered me a fighter job. It was an F-86, but an F-86 not for Korea. It was an 86D, an all-weather airplane to shoot down bombers that were coming in. Anyway, make a long story short, we were assigned to the 514th Fighter Interceptor Squadron, one of the 3 squadrons of the wing. And this was all stationed at RAF Station Manson, except we had 1 squadron up at Bentwaters. And it eventually went to Schusterberg, I think it was, but wherever it went, didn't matter. That was after. We got so well proficient with rocketry that they made us what they call combat ready. When we went back to England, they decided that the 514th and the 513th, our sister squadron on the base, were combat ready, and we would take our share of the load for alerts. Now, we shared that alert with the British, the RAF. Now, in the case of Manston, first of all, let me explain. Manston is on the Thames estuary on the tip, just north of Dover, but on the Thames estuary. And we could see France, about 18 miles on a clear day, which wasn't very often, but we could see it. So we decided to set up shop on the end of the runway on the side. Now, Manston has a 750-foot wide runway. It was made for recovery of bombers that were shot up during the war. And boy, they had they had a FIDO system, they had everything that you could possibly have. The FIDO system would burn the fog off. It would lift the fog up 300-400 feet. That gave you a hell of a lot of visibility. So it was really the perfect base for an all-weather fighter. Anyway, sure enough, we got the klaxon, the scramble order. They said, get to your planes, get airborne, and check in on whatever the frequency was. It's not important. Roger, we got. We beat that 5 minutes in about 3 minutes at least. And we were on the end of the runway. I was taking off. I was no sooner got airborne. Now, mind you, we took off as a formation of two, but because of our tactics in radar, one drops behind the other, and we go in line. And then as we reach the target, whatever the target is, we turn in place so that both of us have a chance to fire on the same thing. Well, at any rate, when I checked into GCI, they said, I have some information for you. I said, I hope so. He says, you are ordered to fire on this object. It's a UFO that's orbiting Ipswich and Norwich, which is in East Anglia. And it's just stationary sometimes. We don't understand it. It's at Angels 320. So, and it said, go gate, which means you're afterburner, and just go get them. He said, I'll give you an intern, and you'll have on your port side at 30 degrees, somewhere around 15 miles away, you'll have your target. Sure enough, just like he said, we turned. I saw a blip that was as big as the blips I saw when I'd see an aircraft carrier in the North Sea. And the radar was so sensitive that it was like a blob of light. It wasn't a point, it was a blob. So when I ran my range gate marker up to this blip, it just seemed to lock on and turn all the lights off. It was such a strong lock on that the airplane was telling me where to go. I mean, just in every way. So sure enough, I called Judy, and that was the symbol that we used for GCI and say, you don't need to give me any more information, I'm locked on. And that my radar will take me for this thing. Well, I was still at 0.92 and fuel was going down fast. And I said, I want to come out of afterburner. I said, no, stay in afterburner. I was really worried about my fuel. Anyway, they denied that. They wanted me to get this thing down. So as I was going in, I got this lock on, and I had overtakes that were very high. I was going 0.92 Mach, which is that's 92% of Mach 1, which is very fast, very close to 700 miles an hour. At any rate, when I locked on, it was such a strong lock with strong information. I was getting all kinds of information from my radar. It was telling me everything. So I called Judy and started going in on the thing, and he still had to tell me some more. He's straight ahead, just keep going, you're on the way. I said, I know that. Anyway, when I got my 20 seconds to go, the circle starts shrinking. On the circle, you have overtake speed. The overtake was indicating I was going 0.92, and this thing was probably pretty near still because he wasn't moving, because it was about that much closure speed. As I was getting closer, I noticed that my radar was basically so damn strong that I could see all the lights that were coming on. And what was going on was he had decided to get the hell out of there. And when he got out of there, he went Mach 10 or something. It was beyond anything I could measure. So, I mean, he left me just standing there, and he was gone. And this happened in maybe 1 or 2 seconds. And at my speed, there's nothing I could do. That was it. It was all over for me. I told the radar people, I said, GCI, I said, what's happening with this bogey? He says, I'm sorry, sir, but he's off our screen. He has a 250-mile range scope, and he was already off of that screen as well. So there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything except fire rockets, and then they'll land in Ipswich, and I don't want to do anything like that. So he said, well, you're released to home plate, meaning I could go home. On the way home, they called me and said,
when you get on the ground, call me on the landline. I've got to give you a briefing. I said, Roger, I'd like to know what the hell happened too. So anyway, I got on the ground. I called them. This med sector was RAF controlled. This is the MOD that called the shots. And at any rate, they said, this mission has been declared top secret. And you're not to mention this to anyone, not your commander, not your wife, not anybody. Mum's the word, you didn't fly this mission. You understand? I said, yes, sir, I understand. He said, now we're sending somebody down from the embassy to debrief you. What they meant is they're sending me a spook. A spook is what we used to call these people that come from the cloak and dagger and debrief you and, you know, tell you that you're in jeopardy of anything if you do anything. So when I got down there, the next morning, the spook showed up. I didn't see him. An enlisted man that has been in contact with me since, because he didn't know about the mission either. But nobody knew about the mission until the MOD released it in October 21st of last year. When they released it, it just took all the weight off my shoulder. And now I could talk to anybody. So I talked to Ron Kane, who's an enlisted man. He was one of two twins. One of them passed away. Both of them were in our operations. And he said, hey, I took that guy back to you. I said, I didn't know anybody knew about him. He came and went like a spook. You know, like nobody saw him. So he said, yeah, I saw him. I can tell you all you want to know about him. I said, I want to know where he was from. He said, we don't know. Oh, thank you very much. But I knew when he held up that USA document that he had, that it was the American Eagle, and it was that I should shut up. And he told me, this is not only top secret. If you open your mouth about this to anyone, whether it be your commander or anyone else, we will take you away from flying for the rest of your career. And I just couldn't see that. So I jammed my two lips together and never said another word. And I left Manston. All my fighter buddies would love to have heard the story, and I would love to have told them, but I couldn't tell them. So I never said another word until the MOD has released it. Now I can talk to them about it. It's about time. That was the end of my mission. That was the end of but I'm going to tell you right now, I have convinced myself that this was an alien spacecraft because he did things that my airplane couldn't do or no other airplane could do. And he had speeds that were infinite compared to what I could handle. And I think he had a propulsion system that was controlled anti-gravity or something, because he just took off. I don't know how the hell he did it without being plastered up against the ceiling, because there were G-forces going on there that I couldn't even imagine. So I have been convinced since then that was an alien, and nobody's going to talk me out of that one. I did it myself. And I thank you for your...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really don't know how you can follow an account like that. You have just been privileged to sit through a first-person description of arguably one of the most interesting UFO cases that I've ever heard about. 1957, bear in mind we're talking about. A radar return showing a craft the size of an aircraft carrier, capable of hovering at one moment and then accelerating away at speeds of Mach 10 at the next. I sure as heck don't know what that could be. It certainly wasn't one of ours. I wish it was. Absolutely extraordinary. The interesting thing is, there's a wider issue here. There have been other cases where serving military pilots, having received authorization from the chain of command, have been given a shoot-down order. I think Richard Dolan touched yesterday very briefly on the case of Parviz Jafari, from Iran in 1976 who was ordered to shoot down a UFO in the vicinity of Tehran. When he closed on the object, everything else in his aeroplane worked, but I think it was his fire control system, his air-to-air missile firing capability just winked out. Parviz Jafari retired as a general. There are generals out there willing to talk about the UFO issue and about first-person experiences. Another case is Comandante Huertas from Peru, 1980. In December, he was scrambled, authorized to open fire on a UFO that had infringed into restricted military airspace. He actually did manage to open fire with his machine cannon. His testimony was that the rounds were somehow absorbed by the UFO. He said, "I didn't miss." You know, like all fighter pilots, proud men. He said, "I didn't miss." You know, nor did I see the rounds ricochet off this thing. They were absorbed. He said that's the only word I can use.